All right, let's get into it. So we're going to start with the Bitcoin chart. We have it on the weekly. We have the 3 month rate of change um, chart for global liquidity on here, the global liquidity index. You can see I've already talked about this many times. It's done a great job of marking bottom buy zones and top sell zones in the past historically, and we're seeing a situation where we're coming up again on a bottom, right? And you think maybe price won't close as low. This candle for this week may close above 70K or something. That'll happen in about 32 hours. But we'll see what happens. From there, we're expecting a general move up. We'll see what the narrative is behind that, but we know if it happens, it'll be because of this. This has been a strong trend this entire cycle, if you want to call it that. As for price, we have Ethereum, we have Solana. A similar situation there. I think what's important to look at is the 1 day chart and look at the VAMS ranges, the volatility ranges for Bitcoin. We're kind of coming up a little bit. We've hit the lower VAMS and we've bounced back up. For Ethereum, a little bit of a different story. We're kind of pushing that upper bound. If you were a trader, knowing the 1 week implications, right, you would probably be inclined to sell off. And one thing I do think is worth noting is it still plays out the same, right? We top here on Bitcoin on this exact same candle. Ethereum keeps running for a little bit longer, but yeah, and I think that's besides the point. So we'll move on to the charts. So we have the supply and profit and loss. This chart on Chart Inspect is pretty good. When you have no smoothing, it's logarithmic, nothing else added. You can see whenever these touch, that's whenever we have our bottom zones. But for how long does it need to extend itself and stay here? It could just be a fluke thing like it was here during COVID. It could be extended. It could go a lot lower. And I am aware that if you do smoothing, like if you do a 7 day SMA, it's a different story. Hasn't quite touched yet. If you do any EMA of any kind, you see that it's not quite gotten there yet. So I'm aware of that. Sell side pressure. See, this is the 30 day. I'm gonna wait for that to load. I'm gonna load that one up. Yeah, the 7 day, we've come up quite a bit, and then if we do the 365 day one, keep coming higher. We'll see how that one plays out on its own. Short-term hold to realized profit and loss ratio. Still trying to work its way down on the 14-day chart. 7-day chart is forming a general bottom, potentially showing an attempt to get out. We'll see how that comes up as. I think the only one left is supply. Yeah, we already have that one looked at. We're going to go ahead and move on to the check on chain charts. We still have negative nominal funding, or aggregated funding, adjusted, excuse me. See, we've had this general downtrend though in the premiums to longs, shorts, and coming to the STH SOPR indicator, we can see that we have bounced up to the neutral range. Don't really like to see that. It could be an indication of over longing, over leveraging. The MVRV indicator, we can see we are still in this bottom percentile range, not quite in giga bear market areas, but definitely around there for sure. On Velo, funding is still relatively low. It's good to see. Switching over to the X feed, the Bitcoin difficulty situation is supposed to. There is a correlation of sorts from hash rate to price, and when it's easier to mine Bitcoin, you get people coming back, you get more traffic, you get more buying, you get more mining, which should be generally better for the price of Bitcoin. And you can see as of right now, it's been heavily adjusted. Last time it was. Let's see if my Epic Pen will show up, but if you can follow my mouse, by this one right here, there was a major difficulty adjustment, and we can see that this also happened in late last bull run as well. Perhaps we're entering a similar situation where this may have to extend itself a lot further to compel price higher. So James E. Thorne basically says that he basically reveals that the deep state and the federal government before Trump was basically trying to destroy crypto because it was just a philosophical fight against, like the general institutions and the evil behind it, Federal Reserve, fiat money, all that stuff. And you can watch the video on your own. This is his account. The tweet was posted literally today, so you can find that for yourself. Go ahead and recognize the tabs. Benjamin Cowan, he's literally just a giga bear. The data that he has and that he goes off of all the time is usually, it's not technical analysis, but it's simple moving averages and just looking at past price history. He's had a good track record of being correct. However, I'm interested to see how this plays out and how right he is going forward. And here he's just talking about how treasury companies will bleed to Bitcoin like alts did for the last 4 years. Dirt in Bitcoin from the real world basically points out that this cheap value of Bitcoin has not happened, but only 7.7% of the time, similar to the bear market of 2022 and the COVID crash. We can see the COVID crash was right here. We can also see the bear market at 22 touched it briefly, like we have here. Typically when you do touch that though, we've only had one V reversal, that was a crisis. Is this a crisis? Nothing really happened. The price has just collapsed and people have been struggling to figure out why. We didn't have an event occur that affected life and economics elsewhere really, right? Bitcoin is just, everything is broken to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's really only response is to crash in a sense. So we'll move over to basically the summary from the real world that we've gotten. We've got a few screenshots here. We'll start with this one. So this is from Global Macro Investor. Basically, don't trust these. Don't take this as a signal like, oh yeah, the next 100 days are going to be a buying opportunity where I can just buy up and then ride to infinity. No, that's not what we're necessarily saying. For the last year, they've been sharing these fractals of all kind. Every time the Bitcoin price moves, they're like, okay, we're actually correlated to the bottom zone here. We're correlated to this point, and it can go up. Like literally when we were here, they were like, yeah, so price is actually showing that we'll do something like this. Didn't happen, right? We were up here. Before we came down, they're like, yeah, this is a V reversal zone. Didn't happen. How do we know we're not going to go lower or go to V reverse back up? I wouldn't trust any of these, but it is something worth noticing. It is technically data-based. And this was a thing about AI. I'll zoom in here. So, if you're a lawyer, accountant, consultant, financial advisor, mathematician, gene therapist, you need an AI portfolio to hedge. AI is coming, it's exponentially increasing, and that's basically the summary of Professor Adam. And looking into stocks, looking into AI companies, and exposure to AI is paramount, because you have to be prepared that crypto doesn't exist anymore. Now, in the event that it does, he makes a good point. He says that, you'll need lots of bullets and guns, because basically, if Bitcoin and the crypto go down, the internet goes down, the world would be going down, things would be in chaos, right? He maintains a position that being an electrician will be the highest ROI job for the longest possible duration of time, which is true. So learning how to become an electrician through, side certifications and stuff is very valuable. I tried to do that, and I'm going to have to pick it back up one day. Basically, from yesterday's leadoff morning note, we had Darius Dale answer the question, will inflation cause asset markets to devolve from violent chop into a violent drawdown? And basically what he's trying to tell us in the blue here is that the diffusion of AI technology, it shows a positive shock for productivity, which will grow the economy, and it appears to be durable. It does not seem to be like a fad. This may be here to stay and to only grow further. And he says in the blue here, that there's a continued disinflation that is driven primarily by disinflationary impulses in housing and labor. The Fed is still applying downward pressure upon inflation via the positive 63 basis point spread between the effective Fed funds rate and the market implied neutral rate. So things are going to look better, most likely. It's just going to take time. And yeah, he basically goes on to say that the AI productivity boom is actually hitting us and people don't realize it. Moving forward, we had some stuff from Axel Adler. Could go through all these, but I thought this one was good. He said maybe a bottom signal. They've done very well at marking bottoms and bottom zones and times to buy. This was after yen carry trade. These were just simple bottoms on the first climb up. Tariff bottom. Now we're here. You wouldn't be crazy to buy here. Now, for my systems, I will make the point that I find it a little bit irresponsible to buy into any of the top three, Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Solana, if there's heavy liquidations on the 2-year chart and the 1-year chart from Model 3 on CoinGlass, liquidation heat maps, excuse me. I'm not going to pull those up now. You have to pay for it now, which is screwed. But to the point, if price is going to dip down this far, I think Solana would enter not a capitulatory state necessarily, but it would definitely come down into the 70s or 60s below this wick. Somewhere in this zone, I think, would be reasonable to expect. And same with Bitcoin and everything. There's something like SWI as well. If I could find it. SWI would definitely have a moment where it probably comes down to this zone. Buying SWI super cheap is always nice. But if that never happens, trend confirmation is our entry. That is our base case. And we will be sticking to the portfolio in the system. Now, I will tell you that it's undeniable that if price goes anywhere below 60K again, well, did it? It did, right? Yeah. If it didn't. But if it goes below 60K, all my strategic dollar cost averaging valuation metrics will be max bear, will be max oversold, max value. We will be deploying capital. You can always find out when the signal's released, and we find out and put that data out there in the Discord server. This is linked on my YouTube channel. It is paid. Let's see what the prices are. Prices should be really cheap right now. Yeah, $5.99, $4.99 a month, and then $9.99 for premium. And of course, there is direct trainee commitment in here for $70 per month. Would not recommend doing that, actually. You don't really need to. I think the videos and resources that I'll be providing here will be sufficient. May actually remove this one. But the server is cheap, not expensive at all. And what I will tell you is that it has been getting slightly more active as of late. We have been seeing the potential. We've been seeing things like on Solana Network, altcoins, meme coins flying, going crazy. It seems like there's insiders who know that another boom may be coming, that things are about to get insane, and the Solana trade may be where you have to be. If we go down through the shitcoin list, Radium is extremely cheap, and Radium is one of the places where, Solana meme coin trading will have its like boom, right? But that's a bit of a speculative thing. We can talk about altcoins another time. I could make a video analyzing all the altcoins and how I go through, find out which ones are performing the best. I did think it was funny watching the Uniswap pump that happened. I think it was BlackRock, or what was it? Some major corporation player in the crypto space was buying it, and then it just ran up here and gave people exit liquidity to cut losses. I thought it was funny. I wasn't touching it. Some things will go up, like Hyperliquid too. It'll go up in the market, right? And you'll have people like longing this zone, and then it'll just collapse. The Hyperliquid trade is one that I see is potentially a really good one. It's also not listed on Binance for what that's worth, but I think that's going to be enough today. Don't have much more time left. Take care, God bless, and we'll be back at it again tomorrow.